least the beast doesn't pretend to be righteous!
Damn! Today we're going to be checking out Mandalore's review on Homeworld Cataclysm. This is after I've seen his Homeworld Remastered review, which honestly, going into that, I didn't really know what to expect. But there were just so many cool ideas here, and some phenomenal music and voice acting. So I'm really excited to see more of that here in Cataclysm, which I've also heard very good things about. But of course, as always, I highly encourage you to please go and support the OG video first before watching this reaction. The link to that is always at the very top of the description.
Homeworld gets a follow-up, and it's kind of a horror game, and a really great one.
Oh, wait a minute. If it's a horror game, then this might be even more up my alley. I mean, I already love sci-fi. I'm a little hesitant on the RTS aspect of it, but it seems manageable somehow. Just probably is going to take a little bit of getting used to. Oh, but wait a minute. This is in outer space. Does that mean we're going to be delving into cosmic horror? That's always been a genre that has been so difficult to actually portray in like a movie format. So if that is actually the case, I'm really interested to see how we're gonna go about it.
In the last video, I talked about how great Homeworld is. The story is wonderful, it's full of atmosphere, and just downright fun to play. However, there was another game that I only made brief mention of. That's because Cataclysm deserved its own video, and it's hard to fit into the other one. For starters, at the time of this video, it's actually not part of the remastered collection. There are some mods that sort of get the new ships in, but no, this is still a standalone game. So gently kiss the nice new visuals goodbye, we're back in 2000. It also wasn't made by Relic like 1 and 2 were, but instead by Barking Dog Studios. They later went on to develop Bully before being absorbed into the greater Rockstar empire. So there's a strange path there. But for our purposes, the canon of
Interesting. Why and how did this happen? I also didn't know that this studio worked on Bully. I always thought it was Rockstar. Bully is another game that I don't know too much about except seeing it here and there online.
Cataclysm was always kind of questionable. At the time, the executive producer for 2 said the events had occurred but just weren't mentioned. Now, knowing the events of Cataclysm does make some aspects of 2 very questionable, but that's for later. Gearbox is the current holder of the franchise. A few years back, its chief creative officer called Cataclysm not exactly canon, because once again, it doesn't neatly line up with 2. I did go to the source on this, and yes, the studio considers Cataclysm to be fully canon. So 2 is now even messier than I thought. I mean, oh well. You could buy the game for a while. Then Blizzard higher-ups did what they do best, putting their hands where they shouldn't, and they got the word Cataclysm trademarked.
Oh
no
my
one could buy
God.
it for years until GOG re-released it as Homeworld Emergence. It's the exact same game, and if you really want to, you can strip the Code of Pain off the menu. It'll run fine on modern machines, but this is an adjustment coming from the remasters.
I see. Gosh darn Blizzard executives, man. Copyright law has always been such a funky thing. I mean, especially as a content creator, having to tiptoe around all of it is it's kind of a headache. And it feels like borderline criminal that somebody can go out there and say like, oh, the word sky, I want to trademark that so nobody else can use the word sky in anything. And that's a thing that has happened and we have to adhere by. Ugh.
There's no special fan patch you need, this is it. Now allegedly, Gearbox did want to remaster this game as well, but the source code has been lost. That would make the process difficult since Cataclysm does have some strange new mechanics in it. 2's engine had difficulties comprehending single ships in formation. Cataclysm has ships that fusion dance into bigger ones. This would be a lot of work, and for a game that's already a lesser known title and a very
Whoa, wait a minute. That's freaking awesome, dude. But I can only imagine how complex that would end up being. There is a whole, like, set of RTS video games out there that do have these really creative mechanics, however. I think there was another game made by Relic as well that was an RTS game where, this is what I've been reading from the comments, but apparently you could like morph animals together, splice them together to make new and unique units. And that seems like a really awesome idea that I don't think I've ever seen kind of talked about before in the more modern gaming era, where RTS games are unfortunately not in the best place right now. I'm not really too sure why RTS games aren't popping off, but it's probably that barrier to entry, as well as the fact that the newer RTS games maybe don't innovate enough to make people more interested in playing them, and they would just rather go and play the older games instead.
Very small pond. I can get that, but man, even as is, this game is so worth talking about. So all of that said, let's see where things picked up after the first game.
The war for Higara has left the galaxy in turmoil. The past 15 years have seen the birth of new possibilities and the festering of old grudges. The once dominant Taidan Empire has fractured under the strain of civil war. The new Taidani Republic tries to hold the old territories together, while forces loyal to the old emperor lurk in the new bandit kingdoms, waiting for their chance to strike back.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, Higara is the home world that they discovered on their old planet. Well, they discovered a star map to this place, essentially. Which means that the events of this game are canonical, but also kind of not. But chronologically, it's happening between 1 and 2. Because I think in 2, you kind of start off with already having Higara as your home base, essentially.
The mythical search for Higara is over, but now reality is setting in. The burning of Carrick brought everybody together, but like any great tragedy, this was only temporary. The Kushan mothership, the most gameplay important and iconic thing of the first game, is now parked in orbit acting as a shipyard. The now Higaran people are desperately trying to establish themselves. Many of the old desert clans were destroyed outright or merged into bigger ones. If you read the first Homeworld manual, these are the kith that were mentioned there. Only a select few powerful parties are calling the shots, as things usually go. There's a lot of border securing to be done with the Taidani Remnant, the Raiders, and God knows what else. It's that third one that's going to be key in Cataclysm.
The war for Homeworld is over now, but the galaxy remains a dangerous
We're going to
place.
introduce a
We open up to a
new
Higaran
threat.
fleet fighting off a Taidan incursion. And the Taidan are winning, so the Higarans need a commander like you. But the mothership has been turned into a shipyard, so you're not going to have that. What is your big cool ship now?
Attention carrier Virak. This is Kith Somta mining vessel Kunlan.
A mining
We have
vessel.
arrived in sector 112 and request targeting data.
This is your new mothership. A mining barge. A Kith Somta mining barge. They're mentioned in the Homeworld 1 manual a single time by name only. They were once a religious Kith turned into a mining one. Even before the burning, they were greatly insignificant. By the time of Cataclysm, they were almost absorbed into a larger clan. The Kunlan command ship and mostly everything else they have is boxy and awkward. If Higara makes a new technology, these guys are basically last in line for it. Your first mission is saving a Kith fleet from being wiped out by the Taidan Remnant. The Kunlan does have a capability to make some warships for security reasons, but it's enough to swing the battle in their favor.
So does that mean in this game we're more of the underdog in the situation here and not the, you know, the mother of all of our people? I do actually enjoy video games where you're not like the chosen one, the king, the leader, the most important person within the story. And you're more of the underdog who has to overcome as insurmountable odds, seemingly insurmountable odds, in order to achieve basically anything. Just feels more satisfying to me.
This could be Kith Somta's first step in getting more respect.
Kith Nabal would like to thank our brothers and sisters from Kith Manan, Sajet, and Kalel for their aid in battle.
Oh, you thought you were getting thanked. Your people are dirty miners. Fuck you. It's amazing. This keeps the spirit of Homeworld's unknown universe intact. You're not important enough to know the greater things at play. The crew of a lower caste mining vessel understands galactic politics just slightly better than you do here. Their first few missions are just them acting as support ships for a larger battle going on. They even end up having to jettison their ore container to make room for combat modules. They are a last-second, expendable addition to the effort. During a fight with Tyrannic Raiders, they pick up an emergency distress beacon. It's some kind of derelict object, and the Tyrannic Raiders are trying to grab it too, and you just barely beat them out in getting it. It is a strange object, so when the battle is over, the Kunlan decides to call home.
Honored greetings, Samta Kithsa. Did you receive our data regarding the anomalous artifact?
We have. Our researchers agree. The signal and design matches nothing currently used by known galactic races. Where is the pod now?
Oh, I'm sure the Samta leadership will also have your best interests at heart. They have nothing to prove.
We have brought it aboard now and are securing it in the main hangar bay. What should we do with it? We're just a mining vessel. We're not equipped to study anything like this.
We are transmitting design specs so that your manufacturing unit can construct a science module.
Excuse me, Kitsa, but would it not be easier to seek help from another kid? We are still within hailing range of the Nabal command carrier. Surely they would have the staff to...
No, a find like this could lead to alien technology that surpasses anything used by the other Kith. Somehow needs this advantage.
Yeah, the greatest intentions for us after all, I'm sure. Are they just like trying to make us mess around with it? And if something goes wrong, then They didn't really lose much, just one mining vessel. What is going to go on here? Is it going to maybe like open up some sort of black hole and we get sucked in, survive somehow, then end up somewhere in deep space? That, or we unleash some sort of cosmic horror onto the universe because we interacted with the artifact that was supposed to keep it imprisoned for all eternity. I don't know. A lot of things we could do here.
Even your own people are willing to guinea pig you. This is beyond being in the uncool table at school. This is like having the anime club actively giving you swirlies sometimes too. You do-
Dang. Yo, you're even getting bullied by the weebs. This is so sad.
Do go through with their plan and learn that the beacon is over 1 million years old. The progenitors that Homeworld 2 makes a big deal about were only about 10,000 years old, so this device is unfathomably ancient to anyone. Deeper research of the device proves to be a problem.
Research module, this is the bridge. We've got power fluctuations in your area and the hangar bay. Are you running any tests?
Not that I know of, Bridge. Let me check.
Uh-oh.
What was that? What's going on down there? Fluctuation spreading to lower engine module.
Don't know. Give me a second. We were examining surface material from the
What is
alien
going
probe
on?
and,
Now we've got biohazard warnings going off across the lower decks. What have you done?
something is loose. It's killing us. You've got to save the rest of the
shit.
ship. Jettison the lower decks.
Carrick, forgive us. Bridge to all stations. Emergency jettison protocols engaged.
Cut us loose!
Cut us loose? Bro didn't even beg for his life. He's like, oh, if we're still attached to the ship, everybody else is gonna die. Just let us go. I don't know if he's being controlled or if he's actually just like an absolute giga chad. Whichever it is, hats off to you. Salute, press F to pay respects. You just hear the screams.
Your mission is
The
dealing with
distance.
whatever the hell that is. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
right?
talk visuals. The thing is, we are living in
What a hard transition, man. It is a shame that this didn't get remastered, though. But even with just the crunchy audio there, it was still quite chilling. Simply imagining what was going on there in the lower decks.
a post-remaster world. My eyes have already been spoiled, so compared to that, yeah, it looks terrible. I mean, these ships are moving at a PowerPoint frame rate, so I'm gonna skip the obvious and just focus on the art style. When it comes to spacecraft, the Samta are vastly different than the ones from Carrick. They're mainly beefy, boxy ships that have none of the sleekness you've seen before. These are industrial vessels like freighters or construction craft that have just been repurposed for war. What used to be a tug for massive orbital loads is now actively ramming the enemy. Your deep
Hell
space
yeah.
cargo haulers are now acting as carriers. The ones that don't fit this mold can be downright bizarre looking or resemble the Taidan or the Bentusi. That's because it is their technology. Without real Higaran support, the Samta have had to purchase store-brand replacements. Their game plan is a kitchen sink fleet doctrine. We can't afford a gun frigate, but we did find this weird design that lets our ship look like an asteroid. But you know, that
Hey.
hologram emitter takes a lot
Works
of power.
out.
We can't fit weapons on there too, so it's going to be a one-way trip.
Bruh.
It's like having an army of nothing but Caterpillar construction vehicles and Soviet World War II era tanks. It's stupid and incredibly desperate, but there is a rule of cool to it. It's a
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really cool that it's kind of like a ragtag team made up of just parts that everybody could salvage together. It's in situations like this where creativity thrives. And hopefully this also gets emphasized through the gameplay, with having to use less traditional methods in order to beat your much stronger enemies.
a thrift store fleet that will have to save the universe, and sometimes you do find some helpful surprises. Now besides all the ships, you have your space backdrops. Looking at this out of context, it just looks like a spaceship fight. But Cataclysm goes an extra mile in trying to generate the terror of space, in a way I haven't seen other games do often. The fact it's an RTS game has a lot to do with that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's Silent Hill, or that you'll be lying in bed crying and shitting because of it, but the sound and visuals come together to build this atmosphere of dread.
What the Cleesan and their science team lost, my engineers are now analyzing the subversion entity we have codenamed the Beast. The Beast seems to infect vessels with a kind of particle being that layers the target with techno-organic robots. Once these entities make contact with a compatible surface, they begin to absorb material and infiltrate the target structure. When they make contact with organic matter, They use the mass to form a neural control network that then takes control of the ship. Each beast cell functions like a biomechanical virus. It's capable of using and subverting living cells in much the same way that it subverts and uses non-organic technology.
That professional demeanor is still there in the voice acting, but everyone is terrified of the beast.
Jesus. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before, but that's also likely due to the fact that I don't know enough sci-fi stories. There's probably like a ton of other examples of this biomechanical virus. It's kind of hard for me to kind of picture in my head. Because like, when I think of the Flood from Halo, that mostly deals with organic materials, yeah? But of course, in this game, it would have to have some sort of ability to take over a ship. Because for us, the ships are our characters, and they're the things that we grow attached to, so... yeah, this serves to be a great way to make this a very real threat to the player.
It's reinforced to you constantly, and combined with the music, you really feel how tiny your ship is against the void.
You don't know what's out there. Who knows? Massive Tyranid High Fleet might be heading straight for you.
We are under attack by unknown missiles. We have lost our escort and are unarmed. Please assist. We are carrying thousands of colonists. Someone help us. Please help us.
Even the background being a smear can contribute to how unsettling things look. The early campaign frequently has these flashes of distant lightning. It's a tiny hint of the absolute shitstorm you're in for. The sensors menu is virtually unchanged from the first game, but now there's a new kind of menace to it. What the hell could be out there? There are games that take advantage of that aspect a lot stronger now, but man, it seems that some of the strongest horror in games can come from games that aren't labeled as that. When you have a spaceship strategy game, it's hard to directly show the horror. So instead you have these threatening maps with tense music, you see the threat on a more personal level in cutscenes but still shrouded in darkness. Then you have a game known for its professionals under stress voice acting, absolutely losing their shit.
Stand by Group 4. Stand by Group 3.
We have all breaches across all decks. Something's come aboard. Help us! Help us!
Homeworld has always had strong immersive radio chatter, and now it's being used against you. Your thoughts on command are sometimes interrupted by people being melted by something you don't fully understand.
Okay, I see. That's a really smart way to implement the horror aspect into this game. I don't know what else to say, but just massive props to the voice actors and the editing team on that as well.
Yeah, back to building collectors.
It kind of uses that aspect that really any good monster flick should use, of not showing the actual monster, but like all of these things of you hearing about what it's doing, what's going down, and what kind of terror that it's causing to these people continues to build that imaginary image of the thing, the beast, in your mind. And that, obviously coupled with the atmosphere, the music, and the fact that you're out in space, it all really works together. I like this implementation a lot.
Wait a minute, is that Enmity? Oh my god. The remaster for Homeworld 2 does have some incredible backdrops. The game tries to look like some kind of apocalypse too, and I think it succeeds in that. The issue is, as much as I did like those visuals, the threat was always vague. That contributes to why it felt so hollow. I love Makan's character design, but up until the very end I had no clue what he was up to. It's the end times for some reason. When the bottom of the Kunlun appears to start bleeding and then gets careened off into space while you hear everyone screaming,
very real.
That establishes a threat and tone way better than even the most ancient of prophecies. The Beast is a nanomachine virus that breaks down its crew into nerve endings to control spaceships, and that's the most basic way I can put it. Rather than finding a thing to find a thing to do something, the threat is established early on. Cataclysm's campaign is trying to find practical solutions to fight the Beast.
I suppose that is the best way to summarize how I was feeling about Homeworld 2. At the time, I felt like something was just off. It didn't really feel like a connected story that was as compelling as the first one. Whereas here, I'm not really getting those feelings. I'm just waiting to see how it's going to pan out, and I'm eating all of this up, man. I don't think I could say enough how much I like what they're doing here.
This thing looks extremely dangerous, but we're mainly just mechanical engineers. Our next step should be to try and contact biologists or other experts to try and get a better grasp on it. You see this happening and go, yeah, this does make sense. The beast stays mysterious, but it's also threatening because you know what it does. It'll mosey around the universe assimilating life and machinery for reasons unknown. It's a gruesome struggle, but you're taking the fight. Who knows what could have happened if the Raiders were the ones to unleash it. It's a great sci-fi horror story on its own, but it's also an excellent Homeworld sequel. It plays off of the first game while keeping a lot of the same themes. I'll save all that for the spoilers section, since I do want to talk about the gameplay changes a bit. Compared to the original, I find it a lot smoother to play now. Things the remaster lets you take for granted, like actually being able to attack ships through the sensors menu, weren't available until Cataclysm. There were better time speed up and slowdown abilities, and things like Quick Dock were actually added in Cataclysm and not Homeworld 2. Except it's way better here because it's a choice. It removes tedium in some missions, but in others, an enemy death ball might be heading your way. You can try to let everyone make it, but if the beast is looking to pile drive you, the emergency jump option might be the only way out. This is a rough decision because every ship counts now more than ever. 2, having collectors acting as resource harvesters, repair ships, and salvagers was something that Cataclysm started, but it's like that here because it's a much more scaled down game. There's a lot to reinforce this. In another series first, units now have veterancy. The more ass they kick, the bigger their foot gets. The stat improvements make it worth keeping ships alive even over just the resource cost.
There you go. Another aspect that I felt was missing from Homeworld 2 was the fact of the importance of every single unit. I think in that game it made sense because of the position that you were already in, with having established the homeworld. But here, yes, let's utilize this to the full extent. In a way, make it also survival horror. Make it hurt even more for the player if you could like rename ships too. Oh god, this is just gonna be XCOM all over again. Because like when you're playing XCOM, if it's a randomly generated soldier and you lose them, it sucks because it really does hurt. But like, you know, it was just another guy. You can train up, and if you play properly, find a good replacement later. But once you name them, oh, that completely changes your perception on their loss. I just find that aspect much more compelling, although I know that it's not really a traditional thing that RTSs do. But that was what made Homeworld 1's story so much more impactful.
Then you have all your new ship upgrades available. Some craft can apply these on their own, but others might have to dock up if they weren't built with them. Fuel was gone at this point, but abilities were made more prominent. You can manually order fighters to shoot off a missile salvo, but they'll have to redock to resupply them. You have a much smaller fleet roster. You have strange additions like microship drones that can attach to larger enemy craft and wreak havoc. You're using deception, combining fighters into corvettes and then separating them back out. The kitchen sink fleet angle extends into actually playing the game. You don't get big brawler ships until later, and not very many. Just to emphasize the importance of each individual ship, each class now has its own voice actor. Besides just adding more flavor and variety to the game, this feeds you more information. When you start hearing the Modern Warfare lobby screams over the radio, you can tell both what ship class it is and how they're doing. It makes...
Oh, the crunchy audio does kind of remind me of that, yeah. This is certainly one of the benefits of scaling down the size of the game, though. And as I said earlier, I'm really glad that it is confirmed they are utilizing the ragtag team aspect to this and forcing you to become creative. The fact that you can, like, deceive your opponents as well by disguising your ships is awesome. Probably not something that I could be very good at, like any kind of stealth or deceptive tactic is, really bad in my hands. I'm just not that kind of person. But it is very fun to see when somebody who is good at doing stuff like that is able to pull it off.
2, dropping this aspect especially weird considering how much they built off of Cataclysm. Having ship modules that could be destroyed or damaged was kind of added here, but 2 would refine this idea to a degree that it feels completely different. They might have wanted to build off more, but 2 had a rough development. In Cataclysm's case, it was just supposed to be an expansion pack. It ended up that everything looked so strong and promising that it was released as a standalone game. That seemed like the right call with just how differently it plays. The one thing I don't like is just how much more of a process capturing enemy ships is. Using your harvesters for it feels awkward and it's a longer ordeal. At the same time I get it, because on higher difficulties especially, captured enemy ships can do a lot better than your base stuff. These are ships made for fighting compared to whatever the hell is happening here.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add on the gameplay front that I haven't said before, so that just leaves the story. Well, once again, Cataclysm came with a gigantic manual. It even expands on the lore behind the ships and that darker
a lot better than Homeworld 2 with its 1 page of lore.
Tone continues. For example, when the frozen colonists got to Higara, a huge portion of them since they had lost everything at Carrick. Some of these sleepers crew the self-destructing mimic ships. They've already
honestly understandable.
Given up hope and feel like they have nothing to lose being made into a weapon. Pretty fucking grim. You never need to read the manual to understand the story, but it does help you understand the depths of just how bad things are. There's a lot of details I want to get into here, so if you don't want spoilers, go to here.
Hey, that's what lore is about. You don't really need to delve into it, but if you do, you gain a greater appreciation for what you're experiencing.
Okay, when we left off, the beast had awoken. There's one group that's gotta know more.
It has been forbidden to possess this information for some time, but after your intervention on our behalf, we feel compelled to share it with you.
The Bentusi have always been the wise mentor. As a refresher, or for those who will never play it, which is very sad, the Bentusi reveal the truth of your people. Thousands of years ago, the Higarans were a massively powerful galactic empire. Their actions were so brutal that when they did lose a war, their enemies called for their race to be completely exterminated. Not every race agreed on this, so a compromise was made. The Higarans would be crammed aboard sublight transports and sent to the fringe of the galaxy. If they found a wasteland planet to settle there, then good for them, and if not, tough shit.
So that's how we set up the first game. Why we were there, and why when we launched back out into space, there were people there to tell us, no, you've broken the treaty, it's now time to die.
The journey took centuries, and those who survived were basically feral. When they did reach Carrick, they had to restart as a brand new civilization. So when the mothership emerged and the Tydani honey barbecued the planet, there was a huge outcry. No one hated the Higarans more than the Tydani, but none of them were actually alive to witness the atrocities. The Bentusi, who are bound inside their spacecraft, do live that long. They personally suffered from the Higarans' actions. Even after everything, they moved to forgive. They recognize that a race of people isn't inherently evil, and that maybe confining them to generations of prison, followed by generations of a desert hellscape, followed by obliterating them the second they try to step off it, was a step too far.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the greatest thing to do, to continue that generational hate. But you know, that's just how it goes sometimes.
They made a case for the Kushan people and have a long-term perspective and wisdom that no one else has. They're the best and most trustworthy friend you have in the universe, so of course you go to them to ask about the beast. They're already being attacked when you get there, but they've got it under control.
Attention, Bentusi Trading Station. You are not being attacked by normal pirate vessels. Do not let them get close.
They know about it,
It does not matter what they are. Only the mad would attack the unbound. Hostile ships will be regrettably destroyed.
Regrettably.
He's right too, like they're wiping the floor with them. Then one of the larger ships gets close.
The presence. We sense its hunger. Not infant rape. Not unbound. Something other. Something older.
Oh shit.
From outside.
The other side.
What are you talking about? It tears at us. Rewriting the song. Devouring memory. Turning our body against us. Binding us. This cannot be.
And they're bound to their ships too. No!
Oh fuck. What now? All you can do is escort an allied carrier out of the situation. You can't begin to think of a long-term plan now because holding off the beasts is such a task. Just the act of being too close to them leads to disaster.
Oh god. Like it transmits that easily?
Getting the carrier to safety is a journey in itself, traveling through a hostile dust cloud filled with Tydan Empire remnants. You do pull it off and the carrier does thank you, but there is some disrespect buried in there. You protected them on the way out. But they tell you to find somewhere safe and we'll get the warrior kith to come handle it. It may look polite, but it's a buried insult. The Kunlan doesn't confront that. Trying to dig out a buried disc just makes you look dirty. Luckily, the science team who wasn't involved in the Dust Bowl shootout has learned a bit more. The original beacon came from an alien vessel known as the Ragnarok. I mean the Naggarok. They were exploring the universe a million years ago when they too ran across the beast. When they realized what it was, they tried to cut off their communications and kill everything else that might let the beast out of the ship. But that triggered an automatic distress beacon to be launched, which is what the Kunlan found. As for the Naggarok, it may be dead in the water, but it could be out there still. That's the next logical thing to look for. You do get sidetracked by the chaos this thing is unleashing. The Tydani Republic, which are also Higaran allies, are also dealing with the threat. but they've been calling it an Imperialist bioweapon. Republic Intel knew it was present at an Imperial weapons lab, but did not know it was not a Tydani invention. All of your battles are about buying time. You could be a distraction for the sake of moving spies around, or just trying to hold off the beast a little bit longer. It's an oppressive campaign, and it seems like you can never catch a break. You eventually find an ancient ship cannon inside of a debris field. Could be a progenitor one, or one from the old Higaran Wars. You research it and attach it to the command ship while mastering energy weapons. Things are looking up, and then an enemy Tydani fleet warps in. Kicked back down. But then the Allied carrier returns as promised. And it's like, thank God, finally a break.
This is the cow stove. We have arrived with reinforcements from Megara. Come to us.
Are you sure about that?
Damn it.
And it makes sense, right? Like, it absorbs the organic material, then it uses that in order to integrate itself into the ship. So I'm assuming it's a bunch of the neurons and electrical pathways, and that contains the memories and whatnot. And yeah. This thing is super scary. Thank goodness that at least it's pretty obvious when it tries to call you over. Imagine if it wasn't.
Also, remember when the Kunlun ejected the bottom part of the ship? That's alive now and growing.
Beacon brain.
The newly installed siege cannon is done just in time. It has to be awkwardly aimed manually, but I do land a perfect hit. The mystical cannon of the Ancient Ones doesn't do shit to them. I have to launch an emergency jump and many are left behind. At this rate, the Samta might not have enough members for a chorus. Maybe the cannon could be modified to work if we had an older beast sample, but that's back to finding the Naggarok. But you're still getting sidetracked trying to save others from being devoured. The beast is showing up with all kinds of different ships now, showing how far its reach has already gotten. The fighting is kept relentless and the struggle feels more and more futile.
Like, how are we supposed to fight against this? In some far reaches of space, the beast might still be alive. Unless you have some sort of halo ring, but even those didn't really work. And this might be the point where, like, it might be canon, might not be. But we don't get any mention of this at all in Homeworld 2, do we? At least, not that I recall.
It's made more and more clear how dire the situation is. Even when you get the information to find the Naggarok, it seems like it's already too late. This all makes Blizzard trademarking Cataclysm even more annoying. It's the perfect title for this. This is all very abridged down, but the moment-to-moment fighting really drills this into you. Everyone is being eaten and there's no big unity against it. You find the Naggarok just when things couldn't seem worse.
This is Recon 214 to command. I have target in visual range. Kith's blood, it's massive. The Imperials are all over it. What are they doing? I don't believe it. They're repairing the drives.
Not only are the Imperials not helping, they're fixing the Death Ship. Everyone skips fear into just shock at how stupid this is.
I don't believe it. They're repairing the drives.
It's like, of course the Scout is laughing. This is insane. What are you doing over there?
Come in, Tidon flagship. What are you doing? You can't release that ship on the galaxy. Do you know what you're about to do?
Yes, they know.
Oh god, it's talking to us. Oh, it's a really cool effect.
Years we have been trapped in this ship, listening to the electromagnetic chatter of your tiny self.
For their help, the Beast will give the Tidan Empire half the galaxy. When this first happened, I didn't know how to feel about it. I was already iffy on the Beasts actually talking, but this deal seems remarkably stupid and one-sided. They do address how obvious this is.
That's madness. What happens when you finish devouring your half of the galaxy?
Irrelevant. How many thousands of your lifespan that take? Join us or be destroyed.
Sure, our descendants might be horribly devoured, but at least we'll be comfortable. Ally with the Beast, and it's a pretty sweet ride up until that point. It's even more frustrating later when the Samta directly confront them on this.
How can you be?
I guess. Yeah, it's like, it's a lifetime that I won't be experiencing. The very least will survive throughout this. But if it was me, I don't think I could live with myself knowing that, like, the choice that I made today will result in the extinction of basically all human life in the galaxy. Well, not just human, all life in the galaxy. It'll just be the Beast devouring everything.
You're helping this thing.
What choice do we have, Higaran? Your mad quest shattered our imperial sphere, took the life of our immortal emperor. Whatever we have been driven to now is
desperation.
your fault.
Oh, God. It makes you do some really stupid shit, doesn't it? When you feel like you've been backed into a corner and there's no way out.
Helping the Beast is the Empire's final fuck you to the galaxy, but they won't own up to it. You do retrieve a sample, but the Nagarok escapes. The siege cannon might be Bentusi, so maybe there are more out there. The good news is that there are, and the bad is that they're escaping the galaxy. Things are so bad that the Bentusi are entirely piecing out of the situation.
You're right, yeah, I was about to say. They're like, alright, I'ma head out, peace. Looks like shit's gonna go down, and I'm not gonna be here to see that. And honestly, fair play to them.
They are completely terrified, to the point the fleet decides to destroy their escape route in hopes of convincing them.
Cease your attacks or be destroyed. Do you not understand what has happened? We will not be bound.
You don't heed their warning, and they meant it. The Bentusi attack you, and they rip your fleet apart. All the resources, all the veteran ships, they melt right through them. They're doing this to people who came to them for help.
You helped us to win our home world. You cannot run away now.
We aided the Sajet persona who was newly unbound. You are not Sajet. Your bound bodies and flicker lives make you blind to reality, and now we will all pay for your blindness.
It's an unwinnable battle. You don't activate an ancient superweapon to stop them. Instead, the captain convinces them.
You seek to trap us in a diseased galaxy. This cannot be. Desist, and we will allow you to leave. We regret the loss of your memories.
Powering down weapons.
Regret? We regret the loss of the whole sand-cursed galaxy. Stop murdering us and help us kill the beast.
The devourer cannot be stopped. We must flee, or even memory will die. We will not be bound.
Yes. You will not be bound, whatever that means. Well, guess what? We won't let you go. It doesn't matter how we die. One ancient monster is as good as another.
Hey, fair enough.
We are not monsters.
What are you doing then?
Look around. Look what you've done to our fleet. All because we dared to get in your way. Look at yourselves, the aloof, the mighty Bentusi, slaughtering the people who asked for your help. You're worse than the beast. At least the beast doesn't pretend to be righteous.
Damn!
For the first time in countless orbits, we fear.
Join the kith. We're not blind, just scared. As scared as you. Now, are you gonna help us, or are we gonna have to ram this mining ship down the throat of the first station that approaches?
That will not be necessary. We see our own madness reflected in yours. We will do what we can to help.
This scene will never be as...
Whoa. Man, it's been such a long time since I've seen such an exchange like that. That was fantastic, man. That was oozing with just the right level of emotion. I love these kind of confrontations. And I'm glad that it was like a conversation between two races. Well, one being human and the other being like an ancient alien race who thought that they knew better. And yet in the end were able to be convinced through logic to see the error of their own ways and hopefully this time help us turn things around. Although it does look very hopeless, but you know, it makes a whole lot of sense why we wouldn't back down from this one, because we either die to them or we die to the beasts, and either way, we both die, so like, what does it matter? When it's a situation where if you give up, then you are guaranteed to die, but if you fight, then you might have a chance to live, I think the choice is very obvious.
As famous as Carrick is burning, but it's my favorite in the series. You got to see the Bentusi get physically overpowered, but it's a lot more seeing them be so afraid that they lose their way. Homeworld is all about going home and returning to where you belong. Cataclysm seems like it's the opposite. This is about the danger of not being able to confront change. The Tydani Empire want the glory days back, even if that means being buddy-buddy with sentient cancer. But you know from Homeworld that the Empire was a terrible, corrupt place. The glory days weren't so glorious unless you were on the top of a pile of misery. The Bentusi are wise and powerful, but as a race they haven't felt actually threatened in thousands of years. Rather than face the challenge, their first instinct is to run away. They were smug when the Beast first showed up, but that evaporated faster than their ship did. To their credit, it would be a pretty horrible fate. Because they're so integrated with their ships, the Beast wouldn't kill them on contact. Instead, they'd be trapped inside their own bodies, virtually being tortured for all of eternity while their ship drifts throughout the universe. It's gruesome enough that you can at least understand their fear. They do figure out that they shouldn't run away. Being comfortable with power made them shy away from new challenges. Even the Beast is just an endless, stagnant thing. It's the same as it was a million years ago, and will do nothing but consume until the stars burn out.
It's completely understandable for them to have this sort of response to it initially. It's just not something they have to contend with, so you get complacent. And I certainly wouldn't want to potentially suffer that kind of eternal fate, but like, where are you gonna go? If you run now, eventually it's gonna catch up to you.
The most impactful force in the war and in the story is the group on the very bottom of the ladder. The Somta go through absolute hell and sacrifice a lot, but by rising to the occasion, they have been improving, even though no one asked or even wanted them to. Homeworld has these big, grand moments. The one in Cataclysm is pretty easy to miss. Whenever you start a mission, you hear something like this.
Understood, Tactical. Attention carrier Virak. This is Kith Somta mining vessel Kunlan. Attention Kith men and fleet. This is the Somta mining vessel Kunlan. Please come in.
When the Bentusi fix up the cannon and you warp in to face the Nagarok, you hear this instead.
Try to hold on, Republican fleet. This is the Kith Somta warship Kunlan.
Hey.
They're a proper warship now, and they fucking earned it. The final mission has you linking up with the Taidan Republic to use their new super weapon against the Beast's mother.
Once again, this is why I love the underdog story. See the progression. You don't start off on the top.
However, the campaign is keeping up its theme of burning lit cigarettes on your arm. Kojima's nanomachines have already captured the super weapon. The Republic fleet is in shambles, the Nagrok is already there, and constant reinforcements are coming from the Beast and the Taidan Empire. This can be a brutal final mission. Even catching the Nagrok is a trial since it has some kind of Jimmy Neutron bullshit frictionless drive. It can outrun your fastest craft, and sometimes it'll straight up devour a unit off the map. It is an endurance of a final battle until finally, you catch a break. If you make it through enough objectives, the Bentusi show up and transmit you a schematic for one of their fighters. They are absurdly powerful, and with them you can send the Nagrok to hell.
Nice. Go screw yourself.
With their momentum significantly slow, the other Beast ships are hunted down and destroyed. A kind of vaccine for the infection is developed, and while some pockets remain, the Beast never really threatens the universe again. The Kith Somta are no longer known as the Mining Clan. They gain a huge amount of respect on Hagara, and now their clan is known as the Beast Slayers. After all you've been through—
bro. They earned that title. But I guess it makes sense. Like, we don't mention it at all in Homeworld 2. If there is some sort of vaccine that was created to counteract the Beast. It's in a similar fashion to, like, the Black Plague in the real world, because that just swept through Europe and did a massive amount of damage. But even though it exists still nowadays, there are like vaccines and cures and prevention methods that we've been able to come up with to almost completely eradicate cases of that happening ever again. But then of course something else comes up and we kind of have to deal with it. As most of you who lived through 2020 probably know.
It's an incredibly satisfying ending.
Yeah.
It really is a great game. Even with the graphics blown away by the remaster, the audio pretty compressed and crunchy, but the campaign stands up as an amazing Homeworld sequel. You can even try Skirmish if you want to play as the Beast. This is about where I would end things, but I've got to talk about Homeworld 2. Cataclysm shows how different things can be while still being a Homeworld game. I mean, you see the captain of the Kunlan go through an arc. Again, he's more representing his people, but he's the strongest character in the series so far. I talked about this before, but Karen Sajet isn't much of a character by herself. You do get glimpses of what she's about. She allowed herself to be entombed inside the mothership. They make a point of saying she's the last to step on the homeworld. She's clearly selfless and heroic, and you can assume she's a good person. The thing is, her arc is basically done. She got everyone home, she's a hero. Until 2 drags her back out to put her inside of Mothership 2. If you played Cataclysm before 2, it's way more disappointing. Cataclysm has shown that it's such a rich universe so you can play all kinds of stories in it. Hell, I'd be okay playing as a Taidani or a Vagar or something brand new. Instead, 2...
Actually, yeah, good point. I'm kind of curious to see things from their perspective, but we never get that. We always play as this side, the Higarans.
Set up the Age of Sajet. This seems to have seeped into the franchise itself. I haven't talked about Deserts of Carrick yet, but it stars one of Karen's ancestors. What little has been shown about Homeworld 3 is centered around Karen once again. I guess after 2's ending you can't really ignore her. I guess I'm hoping they do something interesting with her. Her being the means to an end was how she worked in Homeworld. But it's hard to get away with that now that she's like this linchpin for the series. Do something with her or else I'll wish I was playing a new nobody. Who knows, maybe she's the new galactic tyrant now. Playing an underdog against her could be interesting. Cataclysm has a great story, but all the advances the Samta made, the Beast, everything, it's not around. Not for Homeworld 2. There's only a single Bentusi ship left for some reason, and the Samta are mentioned being against poking around in ancient ruins. Any interesting follow-up has to make way for the Prophecy. The gameplay is fun, but the story is so disjointed that Cataclysm still feels like the real Homeworld 2. So if you like the original, I would highly recommend Homeworld Emergence. I actually tried to get a sale for it, but I haven't heard back, so it might be in the pinned comment, it might not. It's not nearly as shiny and desired as the remasters, so if it does go on sale, you still might want to pick it up. It might not ever get the remaster treatment, but boy is it deserving of it. That's it for
That is very unfortunate, yeah, that it didn't get the remaster. Because this one, just from hearing Mandalore talk about it and all the different plot points, I think is a phenomenal game. With all these different aspects working in tandem with each other, with a story that I find far more interesting than what we got in Homeworld 2. And now I'm also kind of starting to see where the pitfalls of Homeworld 3 might happen, with this entire reliance on Karen being the main character of the universe, essentially. It is always a shame to see such an expansive universe kind of be boiled down to one singular point, when there are so many other interesting stories that could be told. And while some may argue that it's difficult to write stories from the perspective of those that, you know, we can't personally relate to, like some sort of ancient alien civilization, I feel like there are writing techniques that can be used in order to get around that. It's definitely more difficult, but ultimately being able to build up the world more, I think in the long run is only a good thing, because then you have just so many more plot threads to work into your story and bring it in more new and interesting directions. But I think what's going to happen with Homeworld 3 is that we're just going to slap like another generic plot onto it, with the Karen as the main protag, or like the chosen one, in order to achieve so and so. But I mean, at least you got Homeworld 1 and you have Cataclysm. So there, just go back and play those games. Funnily enough, this kind of follows the same trajectory Dawn of War went in. Like, Dawn of War 1 was phenomenal. Dawn of War 2 is okay. And then Dawn of War 3, most people don't want to talk about.
Next time, Warhammer returns.
Ooh.
What do I think of the EVE Online Doctor Who crossover? Desperate. Your turn. Thoughts on the FromSoft Armored Core leak? I haven't looked into it, but I'd be happy to see more Armored Core. I'll also be ready for a lot of annoying Dark Souls but robots thumbnails. Halo Wars.
Oh god. Yeah. Well, we in the future know all about Armored Core 6 now.
1 and 2 when, bonus tiers for Halo Gen. There will be a Halo thing this year on the channel. I was very sad about Halo Gen and I don't know if that'll heal. It's a real shame there's no build floating around. Is there a game I like that the general audience hates, or vice versa? I would think most recently would be Cyberpunk. The ripdown of it has been absolutely fair. It's still a mess in a lot of ways, but there is a lot I like about it. There won't be a video on it for quite a while. Will I return?
I mean, at this point, Cyberpunk is a substantially better game than it was at release. But I still understand the outrage on that, because, like, you were promised something and they gave you, like, an unfinished product, so yeah, makes sense. First impressions are always important, and when your first impression is that, it can harm your reputation for a very long time. It's very rare that you're gonna get a case like No Man's Sky. In fact, I don't think it's ever happened before, to that extent at least.
Turn to Eastern Europe for The Void. I don't know when, but it is inevitable at this point. What's the worst purchase I've made that I can't let go of? Oh man, this is a hard one. I've bought bad games like Aliens Colonial Marines, but had fun with them. I can't remember a brand new game I bought full priced and hated. I'm careful about it now, and as a kid I didn't get anything over like 10 bucks. Oh, Empire Earth 3. That's the one. In general though, I once bought a really shitty pressure cooker that almost killed me. That might count, but I didn't spend a ton on it. College days were deadly.
Destroyed processor is reporting damage.
Command ship is
Oh!
The Beast.
What? But I guess before we go to Homeworld 3, I'll have to check out Deserts of Karak first. Get a little more of that prequel knowledge. But yeah, this one is like right up my alley. I loved literally everything about it. Some really cool concepts that I wish I could see more in modern games. But yeah, that's gonna be it from me, my dudes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.